All right, this is going to be a fun one. I've never really honestly thought about much about what authors and artists wear as a singular topic, but then I came across Terry Newsom's legendary authors and the clothing they wore. Let's have fun with this history. Okay, so we're starting off with George Sands, whose real name was Amatine Lucille Aurore Dupin. And this is an oil portrait from 1825. She was 21. So there she is. And then quite a bit to change. This is Nadar's photograph of her in 1864, which is, by my calculations, 39 years later. And then this is all LGBTQ, you guys, for the first part of this lecture. And then here's the last one, draped in velvet, mid-1880s. Probably one of the most iconic figures in all of LGBTQ history would, of course, be Oscar Wilde. I love The Importance of Being Earnest. I think that's his best play. And here he is in a fur coat and a walking stick. He kind of exemplifies the dandy for sure. And then Gertrude Stein is another gay icon. Here she is at her desk in 1936. And then here she is with her poodle and her partner, Alice B. Toklas. All right. Here's Allen Ginsberg in glasses. So I thought I'd do a kind of a glasses thing. And then here's Joyce Carol Oates. She's one of the most prolific authors of all time. She always wears these big glasses. She always puts out a novel, it seems like, every year. And then here is Cornel West, who ran for president last year. He has been a professor at various different Ivy League schools, and he was in Matrix Reloaded, believe it or not, in 2003. Here's Sylvia Plath, and her style is blouses of sheer nylon, straight gray skirts, tight black jerseys, and black pumps. I'm very interested in this woman. This is Edith Sitwell. This is Roger Fry's portrait of her in 1915, when she would have been, gosh, I'm doing a lot of math today, when she would have been 28. And then we have her again here among her books and looking very calm, cool, and collected. And then here she is in 1937. Okay, so she has a big crucifix here. That's for sure. All right. Oh, I was there when this photograph was taken. This is Maya Angelou reciting her very famous On the Pulse of the Morning. It was a poem for Bill Clinton's inauguration in 1993. Her style is little black dresses with elegant polo neck sweaters, accessorized with pearls and earrings, were her favorite outfit. Okay. Here's our hometown, the hometown couple. This is F. Scott and Zelda Fitzgerald from 1921. There's still markers in St. Paul where they lived. And then this is Androgyny as exhibited by Fran Lebowitz, who is an intellectual and author. And then this is Donna Tartt. She's one of my favorite authors, even though I've only just read one of her works, which is The Goldfinch. She's a very petite woman and often dresses in suits. All right, what about hair? Okay, Susan Sontag. She always had that gray, I don't know what you would call it. It's natural. It's not something that was done at the beauty parlor. It's a natural gray, I guess, highlight in some way. She is an important nonfiction writer. She did some fiction, but I think nonfiction's better. She famously wrote a book on photography. This is Maxine Kong Kingston. If you're going to take an Asian American literature class, you're going to certainly come across some of her books. All right, Edith Wharton was a 19th century woman who wrote The House of Mirth. I think that's her most famous one. And she basically wrote about the socioeconomic class that she was born into, which was a high socioeconomic class. The Age of Innocence is another one of her books, which was adapted by Martin Scorsese. And yeah, I think that about does it. I love the over the top hat there by Edith Wharton. Okay, Zora Neale Hurston, one of the most important writers of the 20th century. She was actually an anthropologist, but known for probably more her novels, and she had a really quite an interesting life for sure. And yeah, so that's Zora Neale Hurston. She often had these really elegant hats. Okay, Hunter S. Thompson is here, sitting beside his typewriter at his ranch in Aspen. He's known for experimental nonfiction, and he usually would have a cigarette with a holder. Okay, Joan Didion, you might have come across her in some of your high school literature classes. She is known for her particular style of nonfiction writing, and her subject matter is oftentimes California. All right, talk about a dandy. Here we go. This is, where are we at? Yeah, so Tom Wolfe. He always wore white three-piece suits. Sometimes they were stripes. He wrote, I think his best book is The Right Stuff, which is about the astronauts, the Mercury astronauts who come before the Apollo astronauts. Probably the most famous would be John Glenn. And he also wrote The Bonfire of the Vanities, which is a satirical look at the materialism of the late 1980s. And he also wrote some fun books like From Bauhaus to Your House, which is about architecture. He also did a famous book on some artists in the 1960s. So he's pretty prolific, actually. Okay, Toni Morrison was the last American to win the Nobel Literature Prize. Bob Dylan did as well, but I don't know how to describe. I mean, his is for his lyrics, whereas Morrison is more for both her nonfiction, but mostly her novels. Beloved is the novel that everybody believes is her masterpiece. I've read it before. She was also heavily involved in publishing and tried to promote the publishing of authors of color, and just quite an amazing person. Where would we be without Toni Morrison in American culture? Okay, Zadie Smith is actually from England, and part of her style is to have a head wrap and also big earrings, I guess. For a long time, she avoided history novels or historical novels, but just recently she published one, and it was a big kind of thing. She wrote some essays about why she'd finally decided to do it, and she had actually Charles Dickens in the novel. So, yeah, she spent some time in the United States as a professor, but I think she's back in England. Okay, now we're going to look at what artists wear. All right, so we're going to start with Frida. You may or may not know that her mother's side of the family was Mexican, but her father's side of the family were German Jews, and she wore nostalgic clothing as part of her persona, and I would say, as far as style goes, she's one of the most famous artists as far as what she wore. This is David Hockney. His style usually is rugby shirts and very round glasses, which is kind of in contrast with his dad's look on the left. So that's a close-up of a painting actually on the left. Okay, and he is an artist still alive, and he's still making great works. He also has always been very experimental. He actually has done some paintings, on iPads in the last 10 years or so. He's back in England, and he had just a huge, giant show in France recently. Okay, this is Nikki de Saint Phalle, and she's among her Nana sculptures for a Vogue shoot in 1968. And then this is Grayson Perry in drag. He's actually a heterosexual. He has a wife and a daughter, but he has this drag persona that is very famous in England. And then here he is with one of his vases. He is, I would say, he's 2D. I've seen some of his 2D work. I actually have some postcards of it, but I would also say that he is a ceramicist as well. Okay, here's another look at a dandy. This is William Merritt Chase, self-portrait in 4th Avenue studio. He is a late 19th century painter in America, and he has his monocle and his curled up mustache with beard, and he's really in the process here because he is not an abstract painter. I don't know exactly at what point he's at in his painting next to him, but primarily known for his elegant portraits of women. And then this is Kehinde Wiley, and in a documentary recently, it talks about how he can afford to have a tailor come to his house, measure him, and make unique suits just for him. All right, here's Basquiat, probably one of the most famous American artists of the late 20th century. And so let's see. Yeah, he's just in his studio with a painting in the background, and it looks like some sort of cart that he has in his studio. Okay, Keith Haring was known for his murals, obviously, and he had his own line of clothing with radiant children in it. And he also, as you can see here, did some different things to his pants. All right, now we're going back to glasses. This is Steve McQueen, who is primarily, I think, a filmmaker. He's Black British, and he always has these glasses like this. Okay, Takashi Murakami. So he's kind of the force behind Japanese cultural interest in children's images. It's called the super flat theory, and he always wears his own designs in his clothing. And I saw one of his works just recently at the National Gallery. He's probably the second most famous Japanese artist working today, next to Kusama, I would say. All right. And then on the left is Alexander Rodchenko. He is an abstract artist in Russia in the early beginnings of the 1900s. And then you have Tamara Lipinka on the right, known as a fashionista for sure. And known for her Art Deco paintings. All right, so Louise Bourgeois with Spider 4. She's known for her really what she's known for are her spider sculptures, as you can see here, what she's posing with. Okay, and then Louise Nevelson. I can remember my art teacher back in high school doing a portrait of Louise Nevelson with the very, very dark eyeshadow. She's known for her abstract found wooden objects sculptures of the sort of abstract expressionism sort of realm. And then you've got George O'Keeffe, who just recently there was a show on her style, which is, I think, yeah, of course, known for her incredible paintings, but also known for her personal style, which was somewhat, I guess it's associated with the Southwest. And then last but not least, Mickalene Thomas, very well-known African-American contemporary artist who always has a good look going on. Okay, that's that.